the school numerous occasions. Obviously, he was persona non grata at the school at the time that he showed up. But he was also he had mental health history, and the doctor released him from the hospital on numerous occasions. Now, if you're going to charge a cop with negligence of not going in, should you charge a doctor for releasing someone? Should every person that goes to the hospital for a mental health evaluation because they're suicidal or homicidal, should you just lock them down? I guess it's kind of a tricky situation charging the cop, because it could open up a can of worms where everyone who doesn't do what they're supposed to do from the whole chain, from a fireman who doesn't go in to save a child in a burning building, for the doctor who releases a person who has suicidal ideology, releases them too soon, and he goes out and kills people, such as in Taunton, Massachusetts, about 5 years ago. There was an individual who went into the hospital. All right, he had mental health issues. He was hallucinating. He was schizophrenic. He was homicidal. He stayed in the hospital. They released him. All right, they released him. He went out, stole a car, got in a car accident, stole a truck, went into a house, stabbed a lady, random, got back into a car, went into a Bertucci's restaurant in Taunton, Massachusetts, which is outside of Boston, started stabbing a waitress, and a good Samaritan who was eating at the restaurant came to her aid, and he got killed, got stabbed in the head. So do you go back and do you charge the doctor or the hospital for releasing that individual? He got a clean bill of health. He's fine. And then within hours, he's out there, being a homicidal maniac. I guess, where does it end?
Yeah, I get that. Well, that's a civil case, right?
It would be civil. It's not criminal. Civil case. Yeah, it's a civil case.
But the question is, should it be criminal?
Yeah, should it be criminal?
Yeah.
I don't know where it ends, but I will say that I definitely don't support how the cop reacted in that situation. But to charge cops or anyone going forward, it's going to be you're opening up a can of worms, I think.
Right, to charge them criminally. Now, maybe again, same things. The civil remedy might make some. What about a cop being charged civilly for something? Yeah, like this?
Absolutely. But they would charge the whole Broward County, because you're going for the money, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna, if there's 17 victims, 17 deceased victims, you're gonna sue Broward County and whatever they're gonna go for.
Yeah.
Because most cops I know, we get a pot to piss in.
Right. Yeah. Right. Good point.
My house is up for foreclosure right now.
Yeah, sure it is. Because we all know that cops don't make much money from detail work and stuff like that. All right. Let me just. I want to go back to this, Ray. Firefighters who die while on duty. I think the number one is heart attacks, right? Because they literally have to go from 0 to 60 like in 10 seconds. Yep. And it's they're sleeping or they're sitting around doing nothing, and then all of a sudden it's and then they're boom, 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 they go. And they're going to put on the heavy gear. So you've got basically all that puts a lot of stress on people's hearts. How about in terms of going into a building and perishing in a building? It's got to happen, right? Because somebody takes a misstep or they fall through a floor,
run out of air, get lost.
Oh,
when you see on TV where there's a hallway where they see the flames all around the building and they're just walking through, that's fiction. That is not real at all. When you walk into a building that's on fire, you might as well close your eyes. Zero visibility, you see nothing. Your visibility, it does not exist.
Yeah.
So it's either pitch black or just white all over. Yep. So you're on your knees crawling, which then that's why a lot of these guys are having, heart attacks. And you're crawling on the ground, pulling a 400-pound hose with, 60 pounds of gear on you. Your heart it can't take that kind of abuse, constantly.
Yep.
So you go in these buildings, you see that kind of stuff. I mean, you can easily get lost. You're in a building, you go walk around, you're in a basement now, you have no idea where you are. Those air tanks that say 30 minutes, give you maybe 15 to 25 minutes because you're huffing, you're puffing.
Yeah, because you're going fast.
So now you're in a room, you have this alarm going off, you can't find where you are, you can see flames, you see smoke, you can't see any lights, any windows, and you're running out of air. And that kind of stress, is what, like the Worcester 6, if you're familiar with that. Yeah. Those guys, they sent 3 guys in. They got disoriented inside the cold storage, sent 3 more guys in, and then they said, we're not sending any more guys in.
Right.
They know those guys were gone.
And the second 3 follow the hose.
Yeah.
But the first 3, there was a case in Danvers, probably 20 years ago now, maybe longer, where firefighter fell through the floor during a training exercise. They were burning a building, and they were running a training exercise in the building that they were burning, and the firefighter basically fell through the floor, and he got out. But like to die during a training exercise, that's like, talk about.
Have you ever known any comics that died during a comic skit? The joke sucks so bad that people just rush the stage. What type of trauma does a comic suffer? Emotional trauma?
I will say this. Bombing, and every comedian bombs. Jerry Seinfeld once, I heard him in an interview saying he didn't bomb. I'm just assuming he didn't hear the question because he bombed. But everybody I know has bombed, but until you bomb hard and come back from it, you're not really a comic. A lot of guys quit. The first time I bombed, I remember it still. It was horrible. Not as bad probably as dying in a burning building, but
at least you die alone and not being laughed at.
Well, I was not being laughed at. I can tell you the night that I bombed, but it's awful. It's the sort of thing where you have to remind yourself nobody died. I'm sitting there when I'm after I bombed, and I'm like, nobody died. Nothing really happened. All of these people are going to forget about it, hopefully. And it's a whole different thing than real life dying, but it's a term in the business. Dying, killing. A lot of comedians like to believe they're a lot tougher than they are. So we use war terms. Bombing.
Oh, there you go.
Bombing. Anyway, let's talk about this other story. This comes to us by way of an email, and this is what's our email address? Because we'd like to get more emails. If you've got a story you'd like us to talk about or a topic you'd like to talk about,
you should be able to link right off of iHeartRadio or Spreaker.com, which is our web hosting site. But if for some reason you can't, I will put it in this week's title. But it's going to be Inside the Thin Blue Line at gmail.com. So when I signed up for that, I couldn't believe that someone hadn't taken that email address.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we are cutting edge here, brother. Yeah. Cutting edge.
That's your level of creativity. Wow. Boom.
One level. Anyway, this comes to us from a listener by the name of Mike. So if you want to send us emails,
what was his name again? His name was Mike.
And if you want to send us emails, just remember this too. Dale will answer every email personally, including spam, including pictures of Russian women. Anyway, email from a listener by the name of Mike about this story. And a cop in Marblehead,
Massachusetts.
Were aware, cops in Marblehead knew about this, and they didn't say anything, and they didn't do anything about it. An officer scratched a swastika on another cop's car and then failed to report the incident, and nobody else did either. A third of the town's department, 9 cops, didn't report this. There was an independent report on this. It was released on August 4th. Swastikas in Marblehead, for whatever reason, it's sort of a continuing story. There's always synagogues that get defaced in that town, etc. And but this is a weird one. Because he scratched it on a fellow officer's car, and members of the department just kept quiet about it for almost 18 months.
Yeah, it's almost like, and I don't think that's any different than any other profession, but we're talking about cops now, so as a cop, I'll own up to that. Yeah, they just, if we don't say anything, and if the person whose car was scratched didn't want to be a victim, and we'll get into that in a few more minutes, you don't have to be a victim, then why should you report it? But I think if I was a member of that department, a swastika on a car, the guy was fired. I agree he should be fired. I don't know what his backstory, who he is. I've met some cops who were a little different, and they acted a little different than others, but I've never met a cop like that who would, just take away the swastika. He just walked up to a guy's car and just started scratching it for no reason. I don't know what their situation was. I don't know what the relationship with these two guys was. Did they hate each other? Did one of them go out with the other guy's girl? I don't know what prompted that. Why would you even do that?
Right, and neither of the two cops involved were Jewish. So this is why it wasn't a hate crime. Just one decided, now again, maybe there's if we were applying logic to it, you're going to think, why would you carve a swastika in somebody's car? It's either that you thought that they were
Jewish.
That they were anti-Semitic.
Yep.
Or you thought they were Jewish.
It could be. It's kind of a white supremacy type symbol. If you see a lot of white supremacists, I mean, if you see Charles Manson, did he not have a swastika in the middle of his head?
Right.
Yeah, he did.
Yes, no, I know.
So maybe this cop, maybe that's where this cop's belief system was.
You think so?
It's possible. Why a swastika? Why don't you just scratch the car?
Well, yeah, that's what I guess.
All my ex-girlfriends scratch my cars.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I was going to say, how can an imaginary girlfriend scratch your car?
Scratch his own car.
Yeah, it's a weird one because again, it's why would you do it? Yeah, you're a skinhead. He's a skinhead. You know these cops with the haircuts, and or you're an anti-Semite and he's Jewish, but
they got rid of him. I mean, that's a good thing. They got rid of the guy, and I don't think
after.
Well, the story. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. The story had a break first, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 18 months later.
Well, no, the guy, he was fired before the story broke, but he was fired for whatever reason. I don't know what reason they gave. Or he resigned. And then the story broke after that. It didn't break, then he got fired. No, they fired him, and then they didn't say nothing, and then the story broke. And now they have to.
I'm just curious to know what the victim's story was, because if Juan wrote something Hispanic insult to me, I wouldn't think it was that insulting unless I was not Hispanic, or he wasn't. Then so what was the other guy's background that he would think that swastika would bother him that much?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe he thought it wouldn't bother him, but he was just But
he scratched into the car. He scratched anything to my car.
If you're going to prank somebody.
When you look at criminal behavior, everything is, when you break it down to its bare bones, what's the motivating factor for any crime? I don't care if it's shoplifting a candy bar, to selling drugs, to stealing a car, to being involved in a domestic situation.
Now he's talking about you, Juan.
What's that? Stealing candy?
I see it. All of the above.
A lot of eye contact.
Yeah, so I don't know what there has to be a motivator there. If once you find out the motivator, then you can try to solve the crimes. I don't know what the motivator was. But let's go back to it wasn't a crime. You don't have to be a crime victim. I think there was some community outlash that said the cop should be charged.
Right.
But you don't, if you're a victim of a crime, and I'm going to give you a horrible example of a victim of a crime that he didn't want anyone charged. I was on the department for 6 months.
Oh, let me just say this. Let me just say this too. What you mean by this about the not being a victim? The officer that got the swastika onto his car, which is his personal car, elected not to press charges.
Yeah, you don't have to be a victim. The only person that has to be a victim.
So there was no crime.
Is a murder victim.
Right.
Yeah, you can't. Obviously, your family can't say, don't worry, my son was murdered.
I don't like him anyway.
Yeah, you can't do that.
This is why he rose to where he rose in the ranks.
So anyone outside of a murder, anyone outside of a murder or manslaughter, you don't have to be a victim. Even a sexual assault victim.
I was going to say, which is why it's a big issue with child sexual assault.
Absolutely.
And it's a big issue with sexual assault because in the child sexual assault, you've got parents who just don't want to subject their kids to it. Let's say you've got the kids themselves might go either way, but the parents also. So you've got basically three heads making one decision.
Absolutely.
In many cases.
Yeah. So go back to I was on the department for 6 months.
6 months.
6 months. And you know something? A little inside about cops. Yeah. When I first started, I never wanted to hear my name called over the radio. Controlled to go to, because as a young cop, regardless of you're afraid. You don't know what to do.
You didn't want your name over because it reminded you of when you were in school and you would hear it over the
over the intercom. Come to the principal's office. Yeah. So that was this call. I remember it was in the middle of summer. I was down the beach, hanging out, and I got a call for a stabbing. I'm like, please don't call me. Please don't call me. They called me. So you get there and you're thinking, oh my God, a stabbing. You got to do medical aid. Is the perpetrator still on scene? So we go to the house. It was a known house, a known criminal. He was an ex-con, but he wasn't that old. He was in his, he was probably in his late 20s, early 30s, ex-con. So I knew it was a bad situation. So we get there. He's in the house. No one else is there. We go there. We break the door in. He's in his bed. Stab wound, no knife, blood everywhere. I said, hey, I kind of knew the kid because we dealt with him before. Hey, what happened, brother? Fuck you. I go, who stabbed you? Fuck you. Just get me out of here. He wouldn't tell. He wouldn't say who stabbed him.
Yep.
And to this day, we never